What's going on? My name is Chris. Welcome to Violence Underground, boy! Today I'm going to be talking to you about 10 of my favorite albums that came out this year. And not necessarily like in order where this band is better than the next band. Just 10 bands that were my favorites all year long. But anyways, let's get started with the first band on this list. And the only EP as well. Time Walk. I usually don't put EPs on lists like this because it's an EP and I usually talk about full-length records, but sometimes there's just an EP that comes out of nowhere and it just fucking whoops your ass, and that is Beyond Eternity's Grasp by Time Walk. This is the band's third release, second EP, no debut albums yet, but holy shit, this fucking EP, it just blew me away the first time I heard it. They do a really good job at mixing hardcore and death metal. They have a lot of death metal riffs, real groovy, riff-driven fucking EP right here. But the singer likes to stay like hardcore style vocals most of the time, but he does do death metal growls on a song called Enter the Realm of Death, which surprisingly isn't on the physical release of this EP, but whenever you get the digital release, it's on there. It's the 6th track, but I don't know if you can see it. This only goes up to 5 tracks, but also the physical release comes with their previous EP, Path to Exile, which fucking kills, dude. Fight Back. Oh my god. This is a really good EP. If you haven't heard of Time Walk yet, fucking go check them out. Incredible EP. My favorite released this year. They're fucking brutal, and I cannot wait for a debut album, like a full-length album from these guys. It's gonna fucking blow some scrotums open. Oh, write it in there, boy. Next up on this list, we got thrash metal. The Omniclasm, released April 16th? April 14th, that's what I said. Released April 14th independently. This is Lich King's 6th full fucking length album. And their first album in 5 long years. Back in 2012 was their last album, which was Born of the Bomb, which was a fucking killer album. If you haven't heard Born of the Bomb, or really any of other Lich King stuff, and you like thrash metal, you should definitely check it out. This album proves, after 5 years, they fucking come back swinging, dude. This album throws the fuck down. Another riff-driven release, Lich King rolls a 20 with this incredibly fun record. I mean, this album has shredding riffs and leads front to back, thundering fucking bass. The drums are tight as fuck, and the vocals are just fucking ripping, dude. I really like this album. I was super stoked, and I actually got to see them earlier this year. Me and my buddy went and saw Lich King. I don't know. I've been to a lot of concerts. This was the smallest concert I've ever been to. Really small. I swear the mosh pit was like me, my buddy Conan, and like this huge dude. We were the mosh pit. I've just never been to such a small show. I mean, I've been to small shows before. I've seen underground bands, but damn. I guess no one really knew Lich King was coming, but holy shit, I had a fucking good time. That was like one of the coolest fucking shows I've ever been to. The energy that they brought to that small venue, the little bar, I mean, they just threw the fuck down. And then, you know, there was only a 3-man mosh pit, and there's always one of those old dudes and thrash metal shows that walk around and do this, push you out of the way. That's what the old guy was doing. And then, so we were moshing with him, and then the singer jumps off the stage, and we're all moshing together. I mean, Lich King is just super fucking fun, dude, or dudette, you know. You should check them out. The Omniglasm. Fucking Lich King. Alright, next album we got on this list. Discarnate. Released on Unique Records back in... That's not true at all. It was Unique Leader Records. I failed you. Released on Unique Leader Records back in September. With All Their Might has completely crushed the majority of competition for heaviest album of the year this year. To me anyways. And I'm not saying that it's the heaviest album of the year. I'm just saying it's one of the heaviest albums that this year definitely had to offer. Like, it's fucking up there. I'm pretty new to Discarnate, so I went back and listened to their 2012 release, and So It Came to Pass. And I think With All Their Might had a lot more to offer, not only songwriting and structure-wise, but I think the atmosphere created in this album gave it a more sinister tone over their previous album, with the mixing of like dissonant chords and really doomier, heavy riffs. I think With All Their Might has a lot to offer, and it's fucking awesome. If you just like albums that savagely fist your expectations of what's heavy, you should give it a shot. Oh. Next up on the list we have Warbringer. Alright, Ventura, California Thrashers, Warbringer dropped their 5th full-length album, Woe to the Vanquish, March 31st on Napalm Records. I've been a big fan of Warbringer for a long time now. War Without End and Waking into Nightmares are fucking classics to me. Those are my favorite Warbringer albums. Worlds Torn Asunder was pretty cool. It wasn't my favorite. And then Empire's Collapse, I liked it even less, so I was somewhat hesitant on going into the new Warbringer album. But once I heard their first 2 singles, Silhouettes and Remain Violent, I was fucking sold, and I bought the album. Those songs were enough to convince me to go buy the album, and that this album was indeed gonna kick serious ass, which it did. Warbringer proves once again that they're just a tank of a band with a monstrous presence. With all the thrash metal coming out this year, I mean, we had Power Trip, Lich King, Terrifier, Annihilation,
Municipal Waste,
Entrenched, Sector, Eruption, Havoc,
Shell Shock.
But Warbringer's album really stood out to me. I think this album has some of the most impressive vocals from a Warbringer album to date. The automatic fire riffing in this album, I mean, for fuck's sake, dude. Just like, every song is just fucking badass. And it had a really nice production. It sounded nice. If you like thrash even a little bit, I suggest you check out Warbringer. Woe to the Vanquished. Right here. On Napalm. Next up, we have one of my favorite fucking bands ever. Wolfheart. Wolfheart. This is the third full-length release by Wolfheart, released on Spinefarm Records earlier this year. Let me even try and pronounce that album title. This is the album title, if you can see it. Anyways, this is a fucking great record. The first Wolfheart album was actually a solo album by Tomas. I'm sorry if I'm fucking that up. But he released Wolfheart, the first album, and one of my favorite melodic death metal albums ever created, hands down. The second album they released, Shadow World, was actually released as a full band. Tomas wasn't just by himself anymore, and so he had a full band. They released the second album, which was incredible. And then earlier this year, they released their third full length. Right here, there it is. That's the full length. I was actually listening to an interview, and Tomas was saying that a lot of the a lot of the members in this band on this album had conflicting schedules, family, work and stuff. So this was actually almost practically another solo album by Tomas. And minus like one or two songs, he practically wrote the whole thing. I mean, because of how amazing I think their first album was, I kind of hold this band to a very high standard. I mean, you're gonna release the best melodic death metal album I've ever heard. Like, where do you go from there? You know what I mean? But they've maintained like steady quality, steady fucking awesomeness. So I haven't been let down by any of their releases yet. This third album is just as emotionally impassioned and powerful as their first two, or anything they've released. It's just incredible, and none of the songwriting, anything has diminished. I don't get it, I don't know, he's like a sorcerer or something. I mean, if you like Tomas's other bands like Before the Dawn or Black Sun Aeon, or if you just like melodic death metal in general, I implore you to check out Wolfheart. Any of their albums. One of the best of the year. Next up, we have a good band. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but I'm talking about X-fucking-Dio. Nah, I am talking about X-Dio though. X-Dio, alright. After a short disbandment, these guys got back together to release the third full length on Napalm Records earlier this year, The Immortal Wars. If you don't know, this is a side project started by the frontman of Cataclysm, Mauricio Iacano. I'm sorry if I'm messing that up. Yeah, this band's actually the majority of members from Cataclysm. I feel like this band is super overlooked. All their music is like super Roman themed and Roman lyrics and Romans. Story time. Saw X-Dio with Nile back in 2010, I believe. They were on tour with Keepa Kalessin, Psychroptic, and I believe Pathology was there. Nile was the headliners. Whenever they got off the bus, I thought it was cool of Nile that they went and like met people standing in line waiting for their show. I mean, almost everyone met Nile. That was fucking awesome. And so I got there, never heard of Keepa Kalessin or Psychroptic before that night. Psychroptic was on their Observant tour, so they played that full album. Fucking killed. That album is awesome if you're not familiar with them. Also, Keepa Kalessin played. They were on their tour for Reptilian, I believe is the album. And holy shit, they opened up with Judgment, I think. And fuck! I haven't seen that much blood since that kid bled out his ass at lunchtime. And then X-Dio came on. Holy shit. the biggest mosh pit I've ever been into. I didn't even remember what song it was. I was just so disoriented from what just happened. I was enjoying the band, you know, the mosh pit was next to me. You know, Mauricio, they're playing, and he's like, I want to see this place turn into a Roman battlefield. And the fucking double drums, the double bass came in. Holy shit, the entire crowd, like, this is the crowd. We're at Emos in Austin, right? Old Emos. The crowd's like this big. You got the mosh pit in the front. The fucking entire crowd turned into a giant circle pit. Never have I ever experienced the brutality of a mosh pit like that. It was indoors. The Old Emos was an indoors venue, but holy fuck. That was massive. I lost everyone I knew during that song. I mean, it was all over. The whole crowd was mixed up. It was monstrous, and I haven't seen a mosh pit get that insane ever. I would love to see XDO again, just to experience the insanity of their mosh pit again. So, if you have the chance to see XDO live, fucking do it. And if you have the chance to buy their new album, fucking do it. Incredible. Next up, we have a band I am not very familiar with until this year. They've been around since '88. I feel bad, but I'm talking about Sorcerer. Released October 20th on Metal Braid. Released October 20th on Metal Blade Records, The Crowning of the Fire King by Sorcerer. The two things that stood out to me the most on this album were the guitars and vocals. The vocals are very powerful, very awesome. This dude knows how to fucking sing. And the guitars just complemented the vocals all the way through, and were just standout awesome. Like, the riffs presented here, killer, man. Like, the solos, mind-blowing, face-melting, scrotal bursting. I mean, even though this album is a doom album, I know it does venture into the realm of power metal, which I think is fucking awesome. And they combine these two genres to merge it into like some kind of fucking awesome epic doom metal. The vocals have very like operatic kind of moments, just soaring vocals. The guitars are very melodic, get real into that fucking power metal groove, but seamlessly merging back into doom metal. It's just incredible. Impressive, too. I can only think of good things to say about this album. If you like doom metal, power metal, or just like old school badass heavy metal, check out The Crowning of the Fire King by Sorcerer. Do yourself that favor. Where's Power Trip, huh? It's right here. I have it. Crossover thrash metal band Power Trip released their second full-length album, Nightmare Logic, on Southern Lord Records back in February this year. If you have no clue who Power Trip is, I'll just give you a quick rundown. They're from my home state, Texas. Yep, son of a bitch. No, we don't really sound like that. They are really digging at the bones of the old school thrash metal sound. I mean, if you watched anyone else's, or read anyone else's top 10 list, I mean, I'm sure you've seen this album on there. I've looked at and watched a bunch, and it's hard to find lists without Power Trip, and for good fucking reason. I mean, they got that old school thrash sounding production going on this album, and just listen to the album if you haven't. I mean, I feel like I'm preaching to the fucking choir here. If you haven't heard this album yet, I don't know what's wrong. You should go listen to it. Alright, next album on this list is actually done by the same artist who did the front album cover of Nightmare Logic, Paolo Girardi. Sorry if I'm messing that up. He did the album cover to this next album, and it's fucking sick. I'm talking about Temple of Void's Lords of Death. Lords of Death is their second album, released on Shadow Kingdom Records earlier this year, back in July, I think. This album right here is one of the reasons Discarnate is not the overlord of heaviness for the entire year. One of the reasons. The sound Temple brings is massive. I mean, it's cavernous. It's huge. Guitar tone sounds like it fucking crushes with powers from beyond. The drumming is so badass. The fucking bass is so heavy. Crushes all my poop down when I listen to this album. I gotta take a shit right after this. And the vocals, I mean, superb. All of these elements combined to make one massive, fucking awesome doom death record. I mean, this thing is phenomenal. I was very impressed. Check it out. Temple of Void. I bought their shirt, turned it into a back patch, and put it on my vest because I really like the artwork, and it just complements the music so well. When you listen to Temple and you're just staring at this, you're just hearing like the forbidden realms, H.P. Lovecraft whispering into your nightmares. I don't know. It's fucking awesome though. Incredible second release from an incredible death doom band. Temple of Void. Disgustingly heavy. Alright, last on this list, but most certainly not least, I have one of my most anticipated albums, probably the most anticipated album of this year. For me personally, I am such a huge fan of the first album, and I was such a huge fan of the show. And talking about Brendan Small's Galacticon 2. This is an absolutely phenomenal album to me. I mean, I'm just such a huge fan of Brendan Small and Death Clock and Gene Hoglan. And so after the first Galacticon came out, I was just blown away. It was incredible. Even if it wasn't exactly Death Clock, because I fucking love Death Clock, Galacticon is still so good. And more experimental. There was an interview earlier where Gene Hoglan was like, yeah, we're recording Galacticon 2, and it's coming out very heavy, and it's sounding very much like Death Clock, like a fourth Death album. I mean, I was just, my butthole puckered, and it was tight until the day it released. This album is a high-stakes intergalactic extreme rock metal project with Gene Hoglan on the drums, Brian Beller on bass, and Brendan Small songwriting, guitars, vocals, and keyboards. There's a lot of non-metal influences on this album, which I think really complements everything so well. I mean, Brendan Small is a master songwriter. Personally, I appreciate his style a whole lot. He's one of the reasons I really like melodic death metal as much as I do. Some of the influences I'm talking about are like Billy Joel, Queen, and Duran Duran, strangely, but Brendan Small expertly utilizes these influences while mixing it with the aggression and melodic awesomeness of Death Clock. Now, I'm not gonna say go into this album expecting a death album, because that's most certainly not what it is. It is not a fourth Death album. It is very much a Galacticon 2 album, but there are Nathan-like vocals present throughout, minus Exodus, Rebuilding a Planet, Ocean Galactic, and Nightmare. The album ends with the cosmic closer, Rebuilding a Planet, and I think if you're a fan of Brendan Small at all, I mean, this song really showcases his prodigious style. I think It is an excellent way to close the album, and I think everyone just worked together so well. And there's fucking these crazy fills on this album. In the song The Agenda, holy shit, I shat blood the first time I fucking heard one of those drum fills. Other than the blood in my underwear, this album, incredibly fun. If you like sci-fi metal, give this fucking album a chance. Do yourself a favor. Well, that's my list. That's everything I had, all 10 releases. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone that I mentioned in this list. Every band on this list, I want to thank you guys for making incredible music. I mean, I love music, and I love you guys. And thank you for everyone watching this video. I hope that you guys discovered some new shit to listen to. Go out, listen to it. Thank you again, and remember, buy the album, support the shit you love.